right, lead heads, we are back with another episode of the Talking Lead podcast. This is episode 281. Dos ocho uno, which I'm sure that's not the proper way to say that in Spanish, but that's what I'm going to say. So if you guys didn't get an opportunity, make sure you go back to last episode 280. That was our part 7 of the Talking Lead AK Corner, 12-part series that we are doing in conjunction with Pioneer Arms Corps. And we had our good buddy CJ Johnson on, and we had Andrew Brenneman with Century Arms, and we were talking about 922R compliance. So lots of good information there for you home builders on what all you need to do to make your foreign firearms compliant and you don't get in trouble with the law. So this week we got a really good show. We're going to do more education. We're continuing our Optics 101 classes with none other than our good buddy J-Mack with RITON Optics. J-Mack.
Hello. How are you? Thanks for having me, boss.
Yeah, man. It's been a minute. We got through the holidays. Excited to kick off the new year 2019. You and I both are getting ready for SHOT Show. That's as our listeners are listening to this, we will be in Vegas at SHOT Show. So envy that, guys. It's really not as big a thing as you think it is, especially for us when we're working it. Because I never get to go around to the booths and see all the cool stuff. I rely on my friends like you, and I rely on Pepper to go and bring all the stuff to me so that I can bring it to you lead heads. So I want you lead heads to send me messages on social media, Instagram, Facebook, email talkinglead@gmail.com if there's something cool that you know about that's going to be at SHOT Show that you want us to cover. And we'll make sure that we do our best to get that person, that product, whatever it may be, on the show. We're going to be at Buck Knives booth. That's 14504. We're going to be there Tuesday through Friday. And, of course, we'll mention this on a couple of episodes. Our big interview, the one I'm really, really looking forward to, is Albert Manprey. He is the last surviving member of Easy Company, Band of Brothers, and he was a medic. So he probably can give us some good medical advice as well on how to be prepared and ready.
Rub some dirt in it.
Rub some dirt. That's what they did back then, wasn't it? But the HBO series Band of Brothers, did you watch that?
I have.
Yeah, it was a great series. I actually rewatched it over the past week, and he's not actually one of the featured characters in that series, but I think there's like a cameo or something like that they do with him, one of his characters. But he is the last surviving member, and it's going to be an exciting episode interview with Albert. Looking forward to that. And then we've got a lot of other interviews lined up as well. Been working with Brooksy over at Buck Knives. I know we've got some entertainers. I think we might have some sports figures. So it's going to be exciting. We're going to be doing the Instagram Live from there. Hopefully the signal will prevail and we'll be able to broadcast out. But this is going to be the final show until we get back from SHOT Show. So make sure you guys, if you start getting the withdrawals from the show, make sure you check our social media, Instagram, Facebook, for those live feeds that we're going to be doing from SHOT Show. And, of course, RITON Optics is going to be there, the official optics of Talking Lead. J-Mack, what's your booth number?
We're 428. We're on that main big floor, kind of ground level.
Yeah.
Nice big booth, so we're excited.
Now, this is your first year officially there, right?
Well, we were there last year as a next booth, so we paid and had a booth, but that's kind of the let's see if you make it a few years kind of spot before we give you a real
see if you're still
spot.
Around next year.
Yeah, that's what that is. So we're here. We got like a 10 by 20 booth, which is a pretty big deal for SHOT Show, and we're stoked. We have some really cool guests appearances and giveaways, and it'll be a good time.
Yeah, friend of yours, friend of mine, Charlie Melton is going to be there. So we're going to have Charlie on. One of the world's premier snipers. And speaking of snipers and things that rhyme, we've got a very special guest joining us, and he's not new to the show. He was on actually 30 episodes ago, so episode 251, we were at the Big 3 East, and we introduced you lead heads to Paul Martinez. Paul is a Army sniper. He's an instructor. He's an author, and he was just getting ready to release his novel, When the Killer Man Comes. Paul, welcome in.
Hey, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's great to be
man.
back.
So it was very fortuitous because we had this scheduled for a while. J-Mack and I, we're going to be talking reticles today for our Optics 101 class. And I was at the hospital today. I had to take Tia for a checkup, and I get this call, and I look down, and it says Paul Martinez, and I'm like, holy shit! I mean, what perfect timing? Because I was like, he would be perfect for our show today. So I mean, it was great. So 30 episodes ago, and we're actually talking optics and reticles, which is
that's perfect.
Your specialty,
right in my wheelhouse,
right?
Yeah. Now, being in the Army, they give you some pretty janky reticles sometimes, or you end up with old stuff or foreign stuff, and you got to figure it out. So,
yeah,
seen some good, seen some bad. Hopefully, I can provide a little insight.
Well, hopefully, we can educate and provide some guidance today because there are so many different types of reticles out there. So, our last one-on-one, we talked scopes. Trying to how to pick the best scope for your needs. We didn't really get into the reticles, and that goes a long way with picking the right scope. So I wanted to get into the reticles. A couple of you lead heads had asked that we talk more specific about reticles. So we're going to talk about the different kind of reticles that are out there, and then how to actually use those properly, read them.
Yeah, I think just learning how to read it, learning how to use it. It's sort of like a calculator.
Yeah.
It's got all these functions and funky buttons, and everybody can do the basic stuff, just point and click.
Get the most. We want to get the most out of your scopes. And that goes along, learning how to read that reticle properly is going to get you the most mileage out of that. But always, before we get into our topic, I hear that Jackwagon train rolling in, guys. Gunny, bring in that train.
Hoorah, Semper Fi, do or die, hold 'em high at 8th and I. It is time for the Talking Lead Jackwagon of the Week, so brace yourself, baby.
Okay. Train is stationed, and we've got a few today. We've got a big topic today, so we're gonna cut the Jackwagon train short, but we've got a few. And I think J-Mack has got one. We're going to start with J-Mack.
Yeah, so right next door, I live here in Mapleton, Utah, and the town here just pretty adjacent to me, Provo, Utah. I had a friend that's a police officer that texted me and asked me if I heard about the shooting. And there's a Bed Bath & Beyond just right off the highway, and a Provo police officer found himself apprehending a fugitive that had kind of been homeless on the run. And there was an altercation, and that officer Joseph Shinners, was shot and killed right there. He died of complications later, but yeah, he was shot and killed. And we have a hard time, talking to my police friends, where he was asking me why, and I said, "Here's the deal, Brad. You're not evil, and so you can't know why. You don't understand it. You know what I mean?" So I said, "You should give up on trying to figure out why people do this." But yeah, this guy, he knew he was going to get caught. He was surrounded, and he just decided to go ahead and shoot a police officer.
So he was just a homeless guy that was living outside that mall, or what? Was he causing trouble?
It says that he was homeless because he was just on the run. My understanding is that there was
a lot of warrants out.
Yeah, he was considered a quote unquote fugitive, and they were tipped off where he was. I think he was kind of hiding in plain sight on the streets, kind of deal, quite honestly. And he showed up to apprehend this man, and he decided he was homeless, but he wasn't gunless apparently. So he shot him and killed him, and it was just ridiculous. This is an officer with a 1-year-old boy. The guy was 29 and had a 1-year-old, and now he's got a wife and a 1-year-old boy that they have to figure out how to go about life. Man,
that's a sad story. I hate to hear that. Yeah. So I think if they caught this guy, they got the murderer.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, they did catch him, and surprisingly, he was not injured in any way. And he'll await charges in his day in court. But he murdered a police officer. So one, I was surprised he made it uninjured back to the police station. But two,
They made it back alive. Yeah,
such is life. Probably better for him. It would have been an easier way to go to die. The path he has ahead of him is probably not a pretty one.
Well, let's hope not.
Let's hope not.
Yeah. But, it puts a strain on our whole system, too, because I'm sure this guy's got no money. He can't afford an attorney. So, we're all going to be paying for his criminal defense.
Yeah, we'll pay for it. Yep.
And he'll probably get some sort of, mental plea or something like that. Yeah. Sorry to hear that, man.
Yeah, it's terrible, but what a jackass.
Yes, definitely Jackwagon Train worthy. And if, our court systems don't get him, then the Gunny's going to take care of him on the Jackwagon.
Yes, sir.
So. All right, so we've got some listener-submitted Jackwagons. Now, let's do this one first. So, Austin Whalen, and Austin's good about sending in Jackwagons, and he starts his email like he always does. Howdy, howdy, Lefty. Says, since September, we had vehicle break-ins in our parking lot at work. After 2 of my coworkers were broken into, and one of them twice, I bought and installed 2 trail cams on both sides of the parking lot. And glad to say we caught one. And the image is attached, and he sent me some images here of his trail cam catching this guy. Let's see, where's it? It said, and glad to say we caught it. In the images attached, the dude first breaks the car window, don't know whose car it was, then stops to take a piss, and then reaches into the car for a bag. He runs to his car while going through the bag, I guess, and eventually sees the red infrared lights from the trail cam like a deer in the headlights. Then he drives off. I got the police to come and take my footage. They were impressed by quality and loved it. That same day, they identified the Jackwagon by his tag plates and picked him up. Good job, Austin. Way to go, man. You just put a criminal behind bars. He said, I wish I had his name. That's my Jackwagon. Car burglars, and even other D-bags who thinks that they can get away with it. Leadhead Austin. So very good, Leadhead. And he says, P.S. Sorry for the dick pic. Because the guy's whipping it out, pissing right in front of the cam, so it's hilarious.
Nice.
That's a good
insult to injury.
I think you got to be desperate or stupid to be trying to move like that at somebody's place of work. I mean, cameras are so cheap now.
Yeah.
They take no support. You just put a camera there with a battery.
And the trail cams, the trail cams are and you can easily hide those trail cams too.
Oh yeah.
So that was smart on his part. So good job, Austin. All right. Next one comes to us from, and I'm going to butcher your last name. I'm just going to say it's Matt E. And I think it's Eichwedel. Eichwedel. Eichwedel? I don't know. So this is from Matt, and it's anti-gun Chicago Alderman Ed Burke. Ed was charged with extortion, and I guess they had found 23 guns in his office. You wanna take this one, Paul?
Yeah, I read about this guy. I think was this last week this happened.
Yeah, it's pretty recent. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a classic do as I say, not as I do politician right there. I think somebody forgot he's not the ruling class, he's the serving class, so he doesn't get to have all the guns and we get none. We decided that wasn't okay in 1776. So
right, and it's Chicago. I mean, this is Chicago. They've got some of the strictest gun laws that don't work, proven.
Yep.
And obviously he knows that. That's why he's got his own guns.
Yeah, I wonder if it's ego that made him do this, or he genuinely has safety concerns. It's kind of interesting to think about, if he was trying to protect himself or if he just thought, I like guns and I'm this politician and I have the power and I can do it.
Well, it's just like you said, it's do as I say, not as I do. But we're missing the thing. He was charged with extortion. That's what got him. He wasn't charged with the guns. He was charged with extortion. So I don't know if he had these guns illegally or, if he legally had these guns, and these were in his office. I don't know if it's a home office or if it's his downtown office.
It's surprising. They found a bunch of them too, right?
23.
Like 20?
Like 23, yeah.
That's more than my office loadout. That's significantly more than my office loadout.
Agreed.
Let's see what it says here. It says, after the company struggled to have its permits approved, it agreed to steer business to Burke's firm. This is his extortion thing. So all over permits, he was extorting money out of these companies to get their permits to them. That's the
classic
problem with politicians, man. This is, but in an almost Leland Yee-like twist, when the feds raided the allegedly corrupt alderman's offices, they found a longtime gun control proponent was armed to the teeth. Federal prosecutors revealed Thursday that nearly 24 firearms were discovered in Burke's office during their raids in November. It's still not known if the guns that were found in November were discovered at Burke's ward office or City Hall, but it's hard to miss the irony of a staunch gun control advocate having to turn over 23 guns as a condition of his bond.
Jeez.
That's just great. I mean, I love it.
Yep, I do too. When I first heard about this, I completely glossed over the extortion aspect of the case. Probably, I think that I might be a little jaded about Chicago politics.
Yeah.
But I thought it was just solely a gun thing.
It says Burke may have benefited from a special exemption. Signs posted outside City Hall prohibit anyone, even a concealed carry permit holder, from bringing a gun into the government building. But as an alderman, Burke may have enjoyed special privileges. An 1872 law designating aldermen as peace officers allows Burke to carry a weapon. State record shows the former cop has also been a licensed private detective and a licensed private security contractor since the 80s with a valid firearms control card. So, there you go. I mean, he had his own license to carry and everything. I mean, he's practicing all the benefits of our Second Amendment, but yet he's fighting against those for lay people.
Yep.
Jackwagon.
So, yeah, definitely Jackwagon material there. Alderman or whatever he is, Burke there in Chicago. I mean, he just looks like a douchebag. I'm just looking at his picture here. It's perfect because they got a picture of him next to a no firearms sign on the door as they're escorting him out. That's hilarious. So thank you, what's your name? Matt E. And I'm sorry I butchered your last name. You'll have to send me how to say that.
Yeah, send him a dick pic with that also.
No more dick pics though. So that was hilarious though. The one that Austin sent in, the dude's clearly just emptying his bladder right there in the parking lot. It's funny. All right, so unless you guys have any more Jackwagons, actually I've got one more, don't I?
I killed the mood right out of the box.
Yeah, you do. I've got one more, and this goes to the TSA. A man with a gun in his carry-ons was able to board a flight from Atlanta to, get this, Tokyo.
What?
Not just state to state. This guy went overseas. He went all the way to Tokyo. So a man flying out of Hartsfield-Jackson, Atlanta airport with a gun in his carry-on passed through TSA screening checkpoint without a problem and boarded his Delta flight to Tokyo. And TSA confirmed this. And they're not attributing it to the government shutdown at all, they're saying that has nothing to do with it. Some of these TSA guys are disgruntled that they haven't been paid since, mid-December? Almost a month, I guess. A lot of government employees. I mean, these are the people you really don't want to be disgruntled.
No, you really don't. I mean,
these guys need Red Bulls and a good attitude for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I know this shutdown's, it's stressful on a lot of our military. Everybody federally that gets a paycheck, I know are good. We've got some good friends that work for the federal government, and they still got bills to pay, just like us. That mortgage is due, and the clock starts ticking, and you get late fees and penalties, that add up. So this isn't good. They need to get their shit straight and get the government back open and paying these people.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Then we can stop sending guns to Taiwan. Hopefully.
In Tokyo.
Tokyo, that's right. Tokyo. They've got the x-ray machines now, though, right? Like you stand in the x-ray machines at Hartsfield-Jackson.
Oh, do they have them in Atlanta now? Yeah.
I believe so. I think they were there last time I went through. So I don't know how that guy got through with it at all. I mean, you'd have to just...
I don't know.
That's a big
Big miss.
Big miss, yeah.
Yeah, well, it said it was in his carry-on, and the carry-ons do have the X-ray.
Oh, okay, so it went through the belt scanner.
Yeah.
All right. I thought it was on the person. Okay.
Yeah,
so it just got cluttered up with other stuff, basically.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
I can see.
Could have been, I guess. I don't know. It doesn't say what kind of gun it was or anything like that, but supposedly the man turned himself in. I guess he didn't realize, he may have forgot he had it in his bag, and then when he was going through customs, I think that's when he's like, oh, shit.
Yeah. That's smart, though. I wouldn't. That's probably what you got to do.
Yeah.
Is turn yourself in that situation.
Absolutely.
You want to be
especially when you're in a foreign country, because their laws aren't the same as here.
Yeah. No, if you're in the United States, just shut your mouth and call your lawyer. That's how we handle things. I think if you're in a foreign country, though, that's not a good idea because they don't care.
I saw this post. I think it was on Instagram the other day, of these two lawyers. And did you say just shut your fucking mouth? Don't talk to here's the best legal advice you could ever get is shut your fucking mouth. That's what they said.
It was like the whole gist of their ad. They were slick too. It was a compelling advertisement. I liked it.
It was. The one guy was standing back there smoking his cigar. He was kind of the color man.
Yeah.
The lead guy would say, and what do you do, Jim? Take your cigar out. Shut your fucking mouth.
Yep. Shut your fucking mouth. Ask to talk to your lawyer.
It's hilarious. I love that. All right, so that's it for the Jackwagon Train. We've got a lot to talk about, guys. We got reticles to talk about. And then we want to talk to Paul about his book and what he's got coming up. He's got some interesting things that you lead heads are definitely going to want to know about. So how are we going to start this off? What do you think is a good logical way to start off our reticle conversation? I guess
what does a reticle do? What is it? What does it do? What's it for?
Good
sort of.
So let's do that, Paul. What is a reticle?
So a reticle is your reference point inside of your telescopic sight. The rifle scope you put on top of your gun, and it can be made a lot of different ways. I'm not completely sure what the latest construction thing is. I believe they etch onto glass now, but they used to use actual wires, and they'd have.
I think some companies still use wires. I think those are still used, but etching seems to be the most common nowadays.
Yeah, and that's a better manufacturing process, I think. Right? It's much more robust than some skinny wires.
Right.
So a reticle, it's how you aim through a telescopic sight. Otherwise, you're just sort of looking out there,
Actually, when you say that, reminded me, it was about 4 months ago, and I was changing out one of the optics on one of my dad's old rifles. It's a 270 rifle. And he had just an old Tasco, probably 5 power or something like that. I mean, I don't know what it was, but I mean, you could tell it was like a 70 scope or something like that. And I was changing it out to the 1.5 to 6 RITON. Is it 6? 1.5 to 6? Is that the one?
We have a 1 to 5, a 1 to 4, a 1 to 8.
Hold on, I got it right here.
Our Gen 1s had a 1.5 to 6 first focal plane.
Yeah, so that's the one. That's the one I got right here. Yeah, so it's the 1.5 to 6. And as I was changing the Tasco scope out, I dropped it, and then I picked it back up to look through it, and that wire had broken.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that it was a wire all these years, but that thing lasted since like the 70s. I mean, he had it on here forever.
There's old ones that were horsehair. They were literally hairs, and that's where the term crosshairs
came
from. Yeah, they were literally like horsehairs fitted in there. And yeah, if you had a big 338 or something and you had an old scope like that, good luck getting that thing to stay true and zeroed.
But I'm telling you, man, he shot many a deer with that scope in this rifle. So, and I actually shot one myself with that scope probably 5 or 6 years ago. So
how dare you, sir?
It lived its life, Yeah,
I've seen some of those old Tascos from the 60s and 70s. They built stuff a lot different back then. I've seen some that are still shooting. I'm impressed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course, one good drop, I think that's why they don't make them like that anymore. One good drop and you're done.
Right, and it just snapped that wire, and it's basically just a what do you call it? Little pirate, what the pirates used?
Yeah, a little telescope.
A little telescope, yeah.
A spyglass.
Yeah.
Spyglass, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Like a monocle.
Exactly. But yeah, I wanted to interject there. So the crosshairs, which is you've got a vertical, you got a horizontal line that come together to make a point in the center, and that's typically what people will use for their reference point when shooting a target. So
for our newer shooters, our younger shooters, it's a lot like the cursor on your mouse. You know, you put that crosshairs over what you want,
point and click,
and then you click on it.
You put that
with
finger.
your trigger. Yeah.
I'm surprised somebody hasn't come out with a finger pointing reticle.
They should have the little mouse cursor.
Yeah, that would be hilarious.
I mean, we're used
they
to
got reticles that do just about everything for you nowadays except for pull the trigger. So who knows?
But there are as many scopes as there are out there. There's probably 3 times as many reticle choices.
Oh yeah.
Oh, maybe 10 times.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and there's more and more coming every day because there's innovation. Innovative companies like RITON Optics come out with new reticles all the time. The 1-8, speaking of, which we'll get into a little bit later. But how do you know which reticle is right for you? So we're talking how you know which scope is right for you. That goes a long way with the reticle as well, because some people may be varmint hunting, some people may be just target shooting, tactical shooting. You've got different weather conditions, different lighting conditions. There's all kinds of different situations that could dictate a better reticle for your use. So
yeah, I think that's where you have to start. I think is what am I going to do with the reticle? Well, there's 2 ways to start. Most people start with what's the coolest thing or that all the cool kids are using, and if that's what you want to do, then jump online and use your computer scope, or which I'll now call it forever, a computer scope instead of a mouse. And figure out what you want. Otherwise, are you doing 3-gun shooting? Are you hunting big game? Are you hunting prairie dogs, varmints?
Mm-hmm.
That's really important. People don't realize, the reason that a duplex, like the original crosshair, that we all have in our mind, is made that way. And Paul can interject for sure if I'm wrong here, but it brings your eye to the point. The horizontal and vertical lines naturally draw your eyes right to that intersecting point.
Right. And let's talk about the different types of reticle. You talk about duplex. There's different types of reticles out there that most of the reticles are based on. Now, they have these types, but then there's different variations on these types. So you've got original reticle. It's got the single and horizontal, single vertical, where you're talking about the horsehairs, the original ones. The crosshairs at the point, it's just, that's it. You just got the crosshairs. And you got the dot where those crosshairs will come and where they intersect, there's a little dot there. You've got the German reticle, which a lot of you Call of Duty players, Battlefield players, especially the new Battlefield, that German reticle is in a lot of those guns online there. Your duplex reticle, which you were talking about, which is the crosshairs, where you've got your posts are a little thicker, and then they get thinner as you get closer to the intersection.
Mm-hmm.
You got your BDC reticles, which bullet drop compensation. It's a ballistic reticle. So for all the different calibers that are out there, you hear, that a certain scope is rated for 223, it's rated for 308, it's rated for, 7.62 but 3.9, or whatever it may be. Then you got your mil dot reticles, which that's the crosshairs that come in, and then you get those four dots on each of the planes. So you got the upper horizon, the lower horizon, your right and your left. Now, with you guys, the technical term, is there technical terms for the right, left, up, top, bottom of your scope?
No, just vertical crosshairs, horizontal crosshairs. That's typically what we use in the military. We don't. Do
you use it like the mathematics where that's X, that's Y? That's Z.
No.
Okay.
That's too much time involved in that.
Too much time. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. You just remember what up and down is. 'Cause it's sort of like flying a plane.
Yeah. You got your horizon and then everything above the horizon, then below the horizon.
Exactly. So you got to figure out how you're going to communicate that. Different agencies and different people have different techniques for it. And then left and right is the same. Just are you going to call, into the wind or the direction that you're going to move the scope, or are you going to call opposite that? So you just have to decide that. In our case, I think we call into the wind in the military, in the United States military. But it's one of those binary things that I have to think about and write down.
Right.
But no, we just call them horizontal, vertical.
Okay. And then you got non-illuminated reticles, you got illuminated reticles, and then, of course, the big one, which I'm learning right now, is the Christmas tree reticle. And that's the basic different types that you've got. So what kind of features do you want to, consider on a reticle?
I think the biggest thing you have to ask yourself, the number one question you have to ask yourself when you're going to buy this reticle is, how much time am I going to spend learning how to use this? Mm-hmm. And if that answer is very, very little time, you want a simple reticle, something that's very simple. And you have to temper your expectations too. You're not going to buy a super fancy reticle, read the little manual about what all the measurements are and how to use it, and then you're going to know it forever. The more stuff you have inside your reticle, the greater amount of time you're going to have to spend training with it. And the more you want to do with that reticle or with that scope, if you want to change calibers, hunt multiple different kinds of game, shoot long distance, maybe you want to do sport and competition with the same reticle, your training time is going to change a lot. Mm-hmm. It's going to increase greatly. So that's the first question you got to ask is, how much time do I have to learn this? And if the answer is very little, I'd go with something simple. Duplex.
Simple is always the best. Keep it simple. Stupid. Yep. But you ask yourself, what am I going to be using it for? Am I going to be the distance of hunting that I'm going to be using it for? Am I going to competition shooting? Am I doing long range precision?
And when you start thinking about it and talking about it, I forgot, I keep wanting to say this. You mentioned that Mr. Martinez was in the Army. I think it's probably fair to say that he was an Army Ranger sniper. Our friend Charlie does that too. He's like, I retired from the Navy. I'm like, dude, the Navy wasn't cool. But the SEALs are cool. You gotta go ahead and add that point. He's like, no, you know what I mean?
The Navy's still not cool.
That was it. Yeah. Especially if you're a Ranger, right?
Especially if you're a Ranger.
I've heard it from both sides for sure. But what I'm trying to say, other than that, which thank you for your service, is like the duplex, right? So if I'm in the woods and there's trees, there's vertical, there's horizontal, there's every which direction, right? So when you're looking through the trees at, say, a mule deer, do you want a whole bunch of clutter in there? It's already plenty cluttered, right? Mm-hmm. So that's why often, traditional hunters, all they have is a crosshair. They're guesstimating. They're hunting within range where, 2 or 3 inches up or down isn't going to make an enormous difference. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what the duplex, like what if I just want to hunt big game, even if I have a mathematical mind and I can figure out the expensive, crazy reticle, is it applicable? Like, does it do me any good? And in that case, no, it doesn't. A Christmas tree reticle in the woods is probably a nightmare. There's dots everywhere. You can't figure out what's what. Where's my center crosshair? Because that's what you want it to do, is draw your eye to that center point. Mm-hmm. So like what you want to do with it for sure, how much time you have, those are questions that you want to have. And then like Paul said, a cool thing you can do is if you want to hunt and do, say, PRS or long range shooting, you can find reticles that work for both, right? Like that's probably the military in you. Like, let's make it easy, right? Like, I don't want to have to learn something new. I want to just know it like the back of my hand, do it without thinking about it.
But at some point in time, you're going to have to learn. You're going to have to learn it at some point in time. Yeah. If you're new to this and you don't know what any of this stuff, I mean, you got dots, you got hash marks, you got stadia lines, you got circles. You're going to have to refer to your manufacturer's description of the reticle to find out what all that stuff means, because everybody's going to mean something a little different potentially.
Well, then maybe I should just like do a quick run through of what the different styles of reticles are good for, and then we can go back and interject.
Yeah, let's do that.
So the duplex, for the reasons listed earlier, are great for hunting because there's not a clutter in them. That German number 4, German number 1 reticle is also great for hunting. It's good for, I would say, like dangerous game hunting, something that's going to run up on you real quick. Mm-hmm. Because it's missing the top post, so you have that bigger kind of field of view. You have mil dot reticles. My experience with the mil dot reticles, there's not really a better tool for ranging how far something is. So if you're in military, that's, has one obvious application. Hunters will often use a mil dot also for the same application. A mil dot's great. You can decide how to range.
Now, what is mil dot? Explain what mil dot is.
So mil dot, people a lot of times too think like it's military. I've heard a lot of people refer to it as military, where it's actually mil radiant, which actually there's a bigger word for that. Basically, there's one MRAD in between those dots. So from the center of one dot to the center of another dot, for instance, at 100 yards is 3.6 inches. And we know that. And so at 1,000 yards, the center of one mil dot to the center of another dot is then 36 inches. The math with a mil dot seems desirable to a lot of people. Also, what do you think, Paul? Is it easier with a mil dot or easier with MOA for you?
Mil radians are much easier. You don't have to do any conversion. Yeah. And in fact, if you want to do yourself a big favor and you're just starting out in the game, mil radians are good to go. That's a good choice over MOA because it's metric. And if you range things in meters instead of yards, your math is so much simpler, So, I think mil radians are easier.
And you say MOA, define that for us, for our listeners, MOA.
Yeah. So that's minute of angle. It's an angular unit of measure. It's it's an inch at 100 yards, right? And then at 200 yards, it's 2 inches. So it's just the way you measure the image in your scope.
MOA is definitely not a metric system.
Yeah.
That's an American all the way. Yeah, it's a memorize with the mil radians. I feel like there's a real simple, it's just very simple and straightforward. With MOA, there's some memorization that has to go in there and some, it's different. It's made for yards, whereas the MRAD is made for meters, which starts to matter, 500-600 yards. It starts to make a difference. They're both great. They both have good applications. The applications that I see that are worthwhile aren't actually in the reticle, they're in the turrets. So, traditionally you have a 1/10 mil click on your turret. So say at 100 yards, one click, 1/10 mil click is going to be 0.36 inches at 100 yards. Whereas a 1/4 inch MOA click, 1/4 inch. So one click on that is going to be 1/4 of an inch, 0.25 or 0.26. So you can see how that will start to grow by that 1,000 yard range. So a lot of long range shooters will prefer MOA because it's because the adjustments on the scope, the way they're made are just smaller. And so that becomes, more desirable. Like at 1,000 yards, 1/4 MOA clicks like 2.6 something inches and it's 3.6.
And the reason you want to know all this is for bullet drop.
Yeah, wind, drop, just all those adjustments, which kind of, I guess, I get sidetracked easy. My apologies. Well, brings me to the next reticle.
Paul, you got to help keep him on target.
Yeah.
I wander. I love to talk, so that's my issue.
Yeah.
So then
basically, to back up for a second, for those of you, this is why MOA and mil radians are so complicated. And I say if you're starting in the game, go with mil radians. The reason being is that you just divide it by 10, or you divide it by whatever the number is. Yeah. And you don't have to do any math. So even for these long distance things, it's a little more difficult. What's the next reticle we're doing?
So it's a good segue into the bullet drop reticle, or the BDC, the bullet drop compensator. Mm-hmm. That is, like we have a number of them in our mod 3 line. So like say our 1 to 4 has a bullet drop compensator that's specific to a 55 grain 5.56 round. And the way that it works is I can sight it in at 100 yards, and then I have lines or dots or some sort of indication marks below that tell me what my drop is going to be for each. So if I sight in at 100, and then I've got a 200, 300, 400, and a 500 yard mark. So I don't have to do the math in the reticle or any of that. It's already built in there. The downside is if I'm shooting a 6.5 Creedmoor or a 308, you know what I mean? Then that bullet drop compensator is going to be very specific to that round, and it's not that round. It's like speed, the weight of the bullet, length of the barrel can all start to come in there. So you're kind of sticking yourself with that specific reticle. On the upside, and guys like Paul will know how this goes. You use what you got. So if you have a 6.5 and you got a 223 BDC, then you just figure out how it works. It's in between these lines. It's a little under that line. It's, you know what I mean? So you can use it.
There are ways you just do a little bit of math and you can take a BDC for something else. You figure out the math and you'll know how far out you're stepped, what yard lines you're stepped at. One of the things I like about a BDC is for minute a bad guy or minute a critter, it's usually pretty good as long as you're using same weight of round and approximately the same velocity. You should be just fine for anything like that. When you have big elevation changes, or if you've got, let's say you hunt with the 308 and you like light rounds for one animal and you like heavy rounds because you're going out to get elk, in another situation, that a BDC might not be best for you. If you have big grain weight changes or bullet profile changes or big altitude changes, I don't recommend people use a BDC. If you're going to use it for one or two things, the BDCs are real good for that.
Yeah, and we get this comment a lot. So I live here in Utah, and like ground level I'm at right now at the bottom of the mountains is about 4,300 feet. Well, I can go up to about 10,000 hunting. So people sight in their rifles, at their local place or out in the desert here, and then they go, they double their elevation.
Yeah.
And something doesn't work, and it's always the scope's fault, I swear. I don't know why, but it's always the scope's fault. And then those are factors you have to take into consideration, humidity, elevation, angle, all those kind of things. And some of them are counterintuitive, like humidity, you would say would, put a drag on the bullet. There's water in the air.
Sure.
But humidity is counterintuitive. It's water vapor is actually lighter than the air vapor. So a little higher humidity, your bullet's a little less friction on it. So it's good to figure out exactly where you're going to be, what you're going to do. Right. Figure out and use, again, it all comes down to what's your intended use.
Right. What's the next reticle?
The next reticle after that, I would say, well, let's not skip over, like, say, a red dot, which isn't a reticle per se, but it is. It is an aiming point. There's a red dot. The intention of a red dot is I want to be able to see peripheral. All I need is one quick point of aim. It doesn't need to be super perfect.
It's more for close encounters. What would you say, 100? Less than 100? Definitely ideal. Less than 50 would be. And then, of course, I say close quarter combat.
Right.
Yeah. So that might be on if you're in the military, then that's going to be an option. If it's your home defense round, that could be an option. Then obviously they work in a low light situation differently. So we'll get to illuminated.
And some of your better shooters, like Casey Griggs, I've seen Casey take one out and consistently, accurately at 300 yards, hit targets with just a red dot.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, if you're a good shooter, a red dot should do you to about 600 with something like 5.56 or 308.
Right.
It's going to take a little training, but no reason why you couldn't hit a head size or a game size target at that range with a red dot. But yeah, for pigs, for stuff in close, tight brush, dangerous game, red dot's probably going to be your best option.
All the way. Oh yeah. And then moving on, and again, like say with the mill dot, we can talk more later. There's 1,000 different kinds of reticles that don't even have names, so they're MOA hash marks instead of mill. So it's almost endless. I'm working on new reticles now with a designer, and it makes my head want to explode. I've never enjoyed hating something so much as I do trying to figure out, what's next. And then I would say, we have that Christmas tree style reticle, which is a fun name. Everyone knows what it means though, so it works.
And visually describe that for our listeners.
Yeah, so usually you always will have still your horizontal line and you'll have a vertical line from center down. But you're going to have what's shaped like a Christmas tree, smaller at the top, wider at the bottom, either lines or most commonly dots. Like our 4-32 is a precision shooting reticle.
Yeah, which I'm looking at right now as you're talking.
And it has, 2/10 mil intervals in between the dots, which help you to to make those adjustments on the run. You know, the upside to that is honestly for me, wind, you know what I mean? Or follow-up shots. If I send around and trying to figure out how to get on target, that reticle lets me measure real quickly anywhere in that area, which is nice. But those dots usually are intended to account for windage. That's why they get smaller towards the bottom, because the farther you get out with your projectile, you know, the more influence everything starts to have on it with reference to where you're at. So yeah, that's the Christmas tree reticle. It has, I mean, you could use it for just about any application you wanted to. Not ideal for everything, but you know, it works for many, many, many things. Paul, you mess with those kind of reticles a ton?
Yeah, quite a bit actually. They were popular during my time in the service, and you know, we learned a lot of different ones, and you know, a bunch of ideas came out in that time. Some of those ideas didn't make it. Some of those ideas shouldn't have and stuck around. My biggest problem with the reticles was, you know, we started on mill dots in sniper school, and then we went to a mill bar, which is like a mill dot. So you've got the up and down, the horizontal and vertical crosshairs, and they have dots, you know, separated by 1 mil radian. Well, these just had lines separated by a mil radian, and then you have a line in the middle. And we thought, that's great. Let's get more lines in there so we can measure things more accurately. So to me, a Christmas tree reticle, that's you know, you've got measuring reticles, and then you've got hunting reticles, you got easy reticles like a red dot or something, or BDC. And the Christmas tree reticle, like the mill dot, it's for measuring. You want to be able to measure wind and account for it and hold in any condition. So as far as a universal application, yeah, these reticles, they can apply to anything. And you can even zero them in such a way for quick target acquisition by using the top of some of the top of your reticle above all that messy Christmas tree stuff. So there's ways to zero to make that possible. But what we found was that no matter how much training time we had with these reticles, you reach a point of complexity where you just will always inevitably make a mistake at some point in a course of fire or on a hunt or on a range package or something like that. And it's because you get lost in that thing because there's just so much going on. So we found that for training, it was really good. For educational purposes, you know, you got a new guy and he doesn't understand the concept. You can show him anything with these reticles. Right.
Now, in episode 251, where we had you on, Paul, I'm trying to think if you told me this off air, or I think you told this story on air of the blind shot. You remember that?
Yeah, I do. Yep.
For the listeners who haven't heard that episode yet, I want them to go back to listen to it, but I want you to tell that story again, would you? And what reticle were you using for that?
In this case, I was using a Leopold TMR reticle. So it's based on the old mill dot reticle, but it has hash marks instead of dots, and it has half mil hash marks, and it has 10th mil ones on the outside. So you can measure very fine stuff, but you also have some fast acquisition, and it's hollow in the middle. So it's the hollow crosshairs, which I love, because once you know how small that hole is, you know, that's a measuring device too. And it was pretty good. So on this night, we were going to apprehend some smugglers from Pakistan into Afghanistan. They were trying to get to Kandahar city, and they were, you know, taking drugs out of the country and bringing bombs and money back in, or weapons and money, or fighters and money back in, right? So these are smugglers. And they're supplying these head honchos in the Taliban, and maybe they're Taliban too. So our goal is to land a helicopter right as they're crossing this sort of last chance gas station in the middle of the desert. Like, if they don't stop there, they can't make it.
No return.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, we launched this mission, and me and a recce platoon went out about half a mile from the gas station, and we were going to be the backstop. So if they blew our checkpoint or blew the gas station, truck stop, whatever, then we would try to stop them however we could. So they called me up on the radio and like, hey, this guy's rolling through and we don't think he's going to stop. Well, in between, I'm sitting on top of a mountain. I'm looking across the desert at this little, you know, Haji gas station. And in between us is a mountain. Right. And this guy, the road passes behind the mountain, and the guy's driving on the road. And, you know I'm going to lose sight of him. So we're doing some math, me and my partner, Mike, And we're like, all right, so the road's here, and we're looking on the map. It's this many kilometers or meters from this mountain, and then we're doing to figure out exactly the spot on the road. We figure out the vehicle speed and the time of flight and all this stuff, and we come up with a good firing solution. But mind you, I'm shooting 800. We'd start tracking him at I think 1,300 meters in scope, and then by the time we'd calculated our firing solution, he's at about 900 meters, and he's just kind of cruising through the gas station. And my platoon leader, the recce platoon leader, or platoon sergeant rather, is on the phone with higher. He's like, "Hey, are we cleared for our sniper to take this guy out because he's blowing our checkpoint?" And they're like, "We don't know. Stand by." And right as his headlights dip below the horizon, they call us back and they're like, "Yeah, Sierra is cleared to shoot." And I can hear, in my earbud, my platoon sergeant hit the mic and say negative because we can't see him.
Right, he's out of sight.
And I think, yeah, he's completely out of sight. And I thought, what, fuck it. If I can't make this shot after all my training, nobody can. So I pull the trigger and I'm just looking at black. I'm looking at a mountain, through my scope. There's nothing, nothing there, nothing to see. And then we start getting reports that this car is slowing and then it's stopping and the guys get out and they're trying to get the hood up. But, of course, by this time our Ranger task force is hemming them up and they were questioning him like, what happened? They're like, yeah, we just had car trouble. All of a sudden the motor just quit. So somehow magically, miraculously, with the help of my very, very good spotter, I managed to send a bullet, 840 some meters in the blind with one shot into an engine block on a moving truck.
Nice. And what was your elevation?
I think I was about 300 feet above ground level. Yeah. At the most. I don't know. Couldn't have been that high. I was probably 150 feet above ground level and I don't know, 2,000 feet above sea level max, somewhere between sea level and there. I'm not sure.
And what rifle were you using?
I was using a 300 Winchester Magnum.
Nice.
Was the cartridge. Yeah. Yeah. Out of a Remington 700. So yeah, definitely had the right caliber for the job.
I just wanted to hear that story again. Thank you for telling that. I love it. But definitely go back, guys, episode 251. We had Stern Defense on that episode as well. You remember the ladies from Stern Defense? Yeah,
I sure do. Those girls were fun.
Yeah.
I remember Andrea, and I can't remember her sister's name.
Yeah. Anyway, the sisters. They were on that episode too.
Yep.
So back to our topic. Where were we, J-Mack? Keep us on point.
We were at the Christmas tree reticle, just kind of talking about the uses and ups and downs,
the complexity that it could be, but it could be simple as well. It just depends how you train with it. Just like any of these reticles, how you train with them. They could be multi-purpose scopes or reticles, but
and Paul brought up a good point about how much training do you want to do, and like we mentioned Charlie earlier, and Charlie's the luckiest shot I know, right? But there's a reason he's the luckiest shot I know. The more you practice, the luckier you get, right?
Yeah.
So he can take a pretty basic reticle and do some crazy things with it because he understands how the basic reticle works and how the ballistics on his firearm works. So yeah, if you want to just get good at something simple, then pick something simple. If you don't have if you have the time, then you can pick something that can do a lot of the math and measuring for you. And people get caught up with, you can use that reticle ways that aren't listed. There's no rules and regulations for how a reticle is used. Charlie told me about a time he had a duplex and something happened and it got crooked inside of the scope. Not a right-on scope, a nice $high scope. Just kidding. And
it's when he picked up off the ground.
Yeah, this was years ago, I'll tell you that. And he just, being the redneck he is, he just sighted it in like a upper right quadrant above the crosshair. You know what I mean? So he still had like a nice point. He used it how he needed to use it, sighted it in differently than it was intended for, and made it work. So you can kind of do what you want with it. I hunted for 18 years with a duplex, but I loaded all my own 33-78 rounds, and I knew how many inches of drop I had, in 100-yard
But that's just years of getting to know, your scope and your reticle, and
well, it doesn't even have to be, it doesn't have to be years even. Like if you'll look at the, like Hornady, here's a plug for Hornady ammunition. It's great, consistent ammunition. They have all the details on how many inches of drop you have at a certain elevation, at a certain temperature.
Right.
And, so you can, with not too much homework, you can gather quite a bit of, intel on how that bullet's going to behave and just make that decision. It's about 300 yards. I'm going to have 4 inches of drop, 5 inches of drop, and then, make that adjustment on an animal. Now, knowing how many inches that is quickly is the hard part. And that brings us maybe why the duplex is even nicer. I think it sounds like we've all been hunting, like how often do you have 20 minutes to shoot that big? You're waiting all day. I swear the bigger a rack is on an animal, the smarter it is for some reason. I don't know the logic behind it, but they
I'm
know
not
you're
going to
there.
comment on that.
Yeah, I've set it up for you. But, we're out looking for big racks.
Yep.
They're hard to find. They're elusive. Bottom line, you don't have a lot of time. And so you don't need a whole lot of clutter. You don't need a whole lot of measurements. You need some real basic information in your head, and you make that ethical shot as quick as possible. Because,
but here's what you don't want to do. You don't want to just go out, buy a scope, put it on your rifle, and then go hunting. You want to go to the range, and you want to sight it in.
Yes.
You want to sight it because, you just slap it one. They don't come sighted in out of the box, So
they don't, If
you're going to want to go to the range, you're going to want to sight it in, put several rounds down range. Even after you think you've got it sighted in, put a few more just to be safe. Go ahead.
I think it's important to point out here, like, J-Mack was saying, you can do a lot of these different things with a lot of these different reticles, and you got to sight them in first and all this. The key thing is whatever you're going to do next with your reticle or with your scope is what you have to set it up for. So if you're going elk hunting and you know that you're not going to shoot any further than 500, then practice 500 and in. If you're going hog hunting and you know you're going to shoot fast and close, then practice shooting fast and close. And
it's just common sense that you're going to prepare before you go out. But knowing your reticle, knowing your rifle, knowing your ammo will give you the ability to, if you need to make changes on the fly, then you can do that.
Especially if you have one of these Christmas tree reticles that can do anything, that doesn't mean that you don't need to practice everything it can do before you do it. That's where we typically would make a mistake. We'd be like, oh, well, we can take this wind shot or this moving shot or this far shot. We'll make a quick adjustment using the techniques we know, but it's so busy in there. Now, if you practice that shot over and over, then what you're using it for becomes much easier.
Yeah. Well, and another component, especially to the Christmas tree style reticles is, let me look real quick. This is probably embarrassing. I have 7 ballistic apps on my phone, and the Christmas tree style reticles are nice. If you're trying to make a 1 mile shot and you're trying to hit a first round impact, you can plug this information. Let me preface by saying I've never found a ballistic app that's perfect ever. Mm-hmm. I've plugged in all the information humanly possible. They're never perfect, but
because there are unhuman elements that come into play, Mother Nature.
The guy behind the trigger plays a big part in how things play out too.
Yeah,
but I can't
human error
test, and people make this mistake, and Paul can probably attribute to this. I had long range shooter guy tell me, well, I did this, that, and the other thing. I had my Kestrel down at 1,000 yards. And I plugged everything in, and I was like 8 feet off. And I was like, well, your Kestrel is telling you what? And he's like, you know what my wind speed is? And I'm like, at your target. But how about where you are? How about 500 yards? How about 800 yards? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's almost impossible. At some point, you have to practice and train. And that's why I said, the more you practice, the luckier you get. You get a feel for what it is.
That's I think we made that point that, you gotta practice. But so they've done the sighting in, all that, they're good to go. But we're even before they get to that, because they're trying to decide, which scope they want,
which reticle, right?
Which reticle that they want right here. So that's what we're talking about right now. So other things that they want to consider when choosing a scope is the line thickness. That gets into the subtension. You want to talk about subtension? Explain subtension, what that means.
Yeah, subtensions are just a fancy way for saying the measurements, whether it be in between vertical and horizontal dots, whether it be in any way, shape, form, or fashion, the measurements, the distance between the markings on your scope are going to be called subtensions. Yes, sir.
And then that makes a difference on first focal plane versus second focal plane, which you guys offer both at RITON.
We do. And again, I think you always find yourself asking what's your application. You know, if you want to do ultra long range shooting, you probably want a second focal plane scope, where your reticle can stay nice and thin at max power. If you're doing 100 to 1,000 yard shooting, hunting of any kind, I think the first focal plane is great. You can range with it. You know what I mean? You don't have to do. So let me give you a quick explanation. So if say we have a scope that has 2 minute of angle hash marks in it, and it's second focal plane, that's on full power. So you need to know that with second focal plane scopes, the given subtensions are on full power. So if it's a 20 power scope with 2 minute of angle subtensions, and you want to use it on less than 20 power, you have to do that math. So we come to 10 power. Now those same markings that look exactly the same in there are now 4 minute of angle hash marks. So you can see how that could be problematic.
Sure.
And even if you're hunting, you know, because, you know, what always happened to me as a younger hunter, I had a 24 power scope, and I always had it on 24 power. And every time something would run out so close that I couldn't see it.
Yeah.
Well, there was such a big picture, I couldn't locate it.
You miss it in your sight picture. You just, yeah.
Yeah. But that's something to consider with regards to subtensions and focal planes. So yeah, I think if you're shooting out past 1,000 yards, second focal plane, nice thin reticle, inside of that 1,000 yard mark, then you have a little more leeway on the size of your reticle and on your focal plane. You know, I think we all grew up shooting second focal plane. First focal planes made it like an insurgent back, like big time.
Yeah, that was pretty much everything was second focal plane for a long time. I think for those of you who are like me and are more qualified to be grunts than scope builders, the reticle on your scope is a ruler, and the value of the markings on your ruler are going to change with a second focal plane scope, which means that if you use your scope for measuring distances or measuring the size of your target or anything like that, you probably want first focal plane.
Yeah.
And it's kind of that simple. If you want something long distance for really, really fine work on a range where you're just trying to get the most accuracy as possible under the most ideal conditions, then you go with the second focal plane.
Right.
Yeah,
right. Did I switch those up? I usually
no. You're right on.
I do that all the time, and he gets onto me for that. But a way that I found to help me between first and second focal plane is that first focal plane, it puts your reticle in front of the magnification. Second focal plane puts it behind the magnification, so it doesn't get bigger.
They're also referred to as front focal plane and rear focal plane also. Right. So yeah, that's a great way to think about it. And, you know, we have a lot of people call up RITON and they're like, you know, I want a first focal plane scope, but it's so confusing. And I hear this a lot. And like Paul said, it's actually 100% the opposite. There's not an easier way to use a reticle than the first focal plane. Literally, whatever those measurements are, that's what they are. You know, and we get lots of input from people, and we've had people that are like, hey, I was on 16 power because I'm asking them questions, and I took a shot and I measured it, and then I zoomed in closer and I, you know, using that measurement, and I'm like, well, your measurement changed because your second focal plane. And so they're like, oh, that's what happened. I'm like, yeah, maybe first focal plane is the better choice for you.
In the heat of the moment, I think that trying to measure with a second focal plane scope is insane. Because if you dial, like, let's say you know what your value is at 10 power, but at 10.1 power, 10.2 power, it's a different value. So that's not a good application for that style.
You want to be a more advanced shooter if you're going to go with that.
Yeah.
You want to be, or you want to be doing it the type of shooting where that math doesn't matter. You need to eliminate that variable, I think, to really effectively use that kind of scope. If you need quick measurements and changing powers and shot adjustments for follow-up shots, you're going to have some major problems.
Yeah, you're going to frustrate yourself.
Yeah, it's hard, and I've done it, and I learned the math, and we took the scopes out and we shot them, and it can be done, but
so I think that pretty much gives them the idea on the reticles. It's just like choosing your scope.
I would add is the illumination part. Is I think is part of that reticle.
Yeah, that's more of a feature.
Decision.
I think that's more of a feature. So.
Okay.
When choosing the reticle, one, you're going to choose what you're going to be mounting it on. Okay, your scope. So reticles and scope are hand in hand at this point, and we probably should have done this together with the scopes. But really, the reticle comes into choosing your scope. Like you said, most people, their first scope, they're going with what looks cool or what, Johnny.
The cool guys have
Johnny one shot. Cool guys shooting over here. I want that scope too. Not really considering why that guy's using that scope, but find what you're going to mount it on. Number one, what kind of gun's it going to go on? Bolt, long range, short range, hunting, competition. Even pistols have there's scopes that they make for handguns as well.
Well, and even the caliber. Do you need 32 power with your 17 HMR? You know what I mean?
Right. So then you think about who's going to be using the firearm. Is it you? Are you buying it for your son, your daughter, your wife? Whatever it may be. Make sure that it's going to be effective. For what you're selecting. Budget's going to play a big part. How much cash you got to lay down on this thing?
Yeah, if you want one of them horse reticles, you're going to pay for
it, right?
Yeah, you're going to pay for it, all right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So set your budget and I'm a firm believer in buy it once. So I'm okay spending a little bit more knowing that, it's going to be a good, solid quality scope. So, that's another thing to consider. And then you can narrow down your options based on that. One, price is really going to either narrow or it might open up. If you sky's the limit, then, you're going to have unlimited options, but that's going to be the big thing. And then we get into features, the features of that reticle, like the illumination that you're getting ready to talk about. So talk about that.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of confusion about illumination too. Sometimes people think like I can use it to hunt at night or to shoot at night, as in the reticle somehow lights up your target or makes your target more lit. Mm-hmm. When the actual case is, so it's dusk, it's low light conditions. Everything that you look out has a shadow on it, so there's black lines everywhere. Well, if your reticle is a bunch of black lines and dots, or however it is, and so are your targets and everything around them, then it's really becomes hard to distinguish between your reticle subtensions, and other
in the darkness
and other items. Yeah. So the illumination just it gets that black on, black off, so that your reticle is now a different color than your background.
Right.
And you can use it. And again, that's in that initial question. What's my use? Mm-hmm. If you're prairie dog hunting, if you're coyote hunting, something like that, then, and we talked about it in the last episodes, just to keep everyone safe, like check all your local state
laws,
guidelines for, illuminated hunting.
Yeah. And that's something
I don't use the illumination, but it's cool to have.
Just like you said, it doesn't illuminate your target. It doesn't light up your target at all. It's just, and I don't understand why it would be outlawed in a state and outlawed for hunting, because it's actually going to be more humane for the person, the animal that you're shooting, because you're going to get, a better shot that way.
Well, they just don't want you hunting at night at all.
Yeah, but you still, there's low light conditions to where it would be better to have the illumination than to not, have the illumination.
Yes.
I think it sort of falls under the cop killer bullets. It's like another gun myth, that
exactly.
Your illuminated reticle is going to help you hunt at night. It's for low light situations when the target doesn't contrast with the color of your reticle. So you turn the illumination on, and now you can see your point of aim.
All you see is your reticle.
Very well put.
You can't see the target any better. You just see your reticle better. So I don't get that, but I think it's exactly like you said. I think it's a bunch of uneducated, knee-jerk reactions that people, throw laws that, sound good at the time, but they really...
Well, the rules are made by people that don't understand how the firearms work, how the weapon systems and optical systems work.
Exactly. So anyway, I mean, the law is the law, so check your local.
It is what laws. It is. Yep.
Yeah. So that's a feature, illumination. What are some other features that you can think of on a reticle? People are looking for the reticles.
As far as features, to me, the bullet drop compensators, the Christmas tree, those are features on a reticle. Right. The illuminations features on a reticle.
Yeah.
A feature could be actual call outs. So rather than having to, see how many, like Paul mentioned that TMR reticle, which is a cool reticle. It has just some hash marks, sometimes like hash mark, smaller hash mark, mark. There might be, 5 of them. So in a quick situation, a cool feature to have is, them saying this is 2 mils, this is 4 mils, or 2 MOA, 4 MOA, so that you can quickly have a point to start from other than the center. To make those fine adjustments. So I don't know. I think I would consider that a feature. Those call outs,
right?
Yeah.
Those predestined call outs, and then you can just light up portions of your reticle also, which is kind of a cool feature. So instead of everything being all red or green, then you can just do a center fire dot kind of thing, or just center crosshairs.
Yeah.
Things like that. So that would be a feature. It's a cool feature to have.
Yeah, it's kind of a cool feature. So
other than that, everything in there is a feature.
That's true. But some other things to consider, not just on your reticle, but bells and whistles on your scope as well. There's some things that you might want to consider. And one of the things that Paul and I were talking off air a little bit was parallax. Would you first off, let's define what parallax is.
So maybe the scope builder should answer this, but
let's get a grunt definition.
We'll get yours too.
We want to keep it easy. Keep it simple.
Exactly. So if you don't understand the following explanation here, mine will probably suffice. You want your target image and your reticle, the crosshairs, to be on the same plane, which means that they're both in focus at the same time. If you have not achieved parallax, or if you're out of parallax, then you can't focus what you're looking at in very simple layman's terms.
The way I usually tell people is like, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go ahead, J-Mack.
I was just going to say, if you extend a finger out in front of yourself, I tell people, and close an eye, focus on your finger and you'll see everything behind it is blurry.
Right.
If you focus on everything behind it, your finger is blurry. Parallax is putting your finger next to the thing that you are shooting at, so it's clear. So both the reticle and the image are clear. But that was a perfect explanation. You just want them on the same focal plane.
I'm stealing your explanation, J-Mack.
And that is
the finger thing is easy, I think.
That is a feature that some scopes have and some don't. Paul and I were talking about, I was like, well, wouldn't most people want that at long distances, over 100 yards? And you were explaining to me, Paul.
Yeah, I won't buy a scope without parallax adjustment. If it has magnification, you have to be able to adjust for parallax.
Right.
Otherwise, you're not achieving
short range.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Even at short range. I mean, you can get the job done, but you can get the job done point shooting too.
Right.
That's not what we're trying to accomplish.
It just helps you get the job done a lot more precise, a lot better.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Parallax is definitely something that you want to consider as a function or a feature on your scope. That doesn't really have anything to do with your reticle, but it does, as far as focusing and being able to shoot accurate.
Without parallax adjustment, you'll never get the most out of your reticle, I think.
Perfect. Yeah.
And I think that unless budget is a factor, you want a scope with parallax adjustment. I think unless you can't afford it, then you probably want it.
Yeah.
My opinion.
Yeah, and I've seen long range shooters. We've messed with it intentionally, where we mess the parallax up, and it will move your point of impact. Like if your parallax isn't just right when you're reaching out there, it can change where you're shooting from. Your parallax being correct to it being incorrect will change where you impact. So it's important to if you have a scope, because we have a couple scopes. We have some of our 1 to 4 powers. Even a 1-8 that have like a fixed parallax at 100 yards. Our red dots are 1 magnification, so they're like fixed at 50 yards. So if you know you're only going to do so much with it, and you can save that money, like Paul said, if you can budget for it, cool. If you know exactly what you're going to do with it, but if not, and then honestly, parallax is a really interesting feature. I won't go into it because I'll nerd out, but like our 1-8 power, the way that it's parallax free, there's no adjustment for parallax in it, but it's amazing out to 1,000 yards, and that the technology has changed so much. I don't know how exactly that they're able to do that, but higher end scopes will definitely
they have the built-in parallax already. Yeah.
Well, no, a high magnification scope should always have parallax, but you can build like our 1-8 that's built right and not have the parallax adjustment and still be fine in all of your different 100 to 800 meters or yards. And that's just, technology that gets put into there. But sure. I'm honestly with Paul, like if you can have it, have it. Might as well have it.
Yeah. I agree.
So it's illumination is the same way for me. I don't think I've ever used it for anything, but I don't mind it being there. It doesn't get in my way.
It's nice to have in case you ever needed it.
I will say that about illumination. I've had it on. I won't turn it down, but I can't think of a single time I've ever used it.
Yeah, I don't know when is right.
You're like, illumination? Yeah, I'll take that. Parallax? Yeah, I'll take that.
And it's one more thing you got to do, too, when you're out doing whatever you're doing. Now you got to, turn on illumination or turn off illumination, so that's kind of a pain.
So let's talk about, we're talking about the parallax, how to properly focus your reticle. So how do you... I like Paul's explanations and my explanations, so we'll let Paul go and then I'll go too.
So how to properly focus, you should have a focus ring on the back, and it's pretty simple. I think the way I focus my scope, I look at my target and I adjust the focus ring on the back and I blink a couple times, and if the target remains crisp and clear and my reticle remains crisp and clear, right when I open my eye and right when I close my eye, then that means that everything is focused and in place. What you're trying to accomplish is you want your scope to do the work, not your eye. Your eye will focus through the telescopic sight on an image that is not in focus by your telescope. Does that make sense? So you don't have to have your telescope adjusted perfectly. Your eye will take up the slack. Yeah. But after a couple rounds, having your eye completely open, all the extra light pouring through that scope, that's going to fatigue you very quickly, and you're going to start having errors. So you want your scope to be doing the work and not your eye. Eyes fatigue so quickly, and people don't know that. So
let me ask you this: close one eye or leave both eyes open?
It depends. Some shots you need full concentration on your one eye. Some shots you want both eyes open. I typically keep both eyes open all of the time.
That's because Paul had people shooting at him, so you want both eyes open.
Yeah, also that. I don't know. What do you think, J-Mack?
I think you hit the nail on the head with the eyes open. Like if I'm fine-tuned, the only thing in the world I'm doing is trying to hit this target, I will probably close my non-dominant eye just to
concentrate.
Yeah, just because it's just the chatter, so I can focus, for lack of a cooler term. And, both eyes open is a good habit to be in for lots of reasons. But I think, if you could be in the habit of having both eyes open and then knowing the right time was to close an eye, then you would be do it right.
Yeah. I think it's something in general you should practice with your eyes open. If you can, it's just going to help you. The other thing is when you're making adjustments off your first round impact, because all your dope, all your calculations, that's what you're going to try. That's not a promise, right? So you want to be able to see as much feedback downrange as possible. Having that eye open, if you're on the plates next to you in the next lane over because you have a major windage issue, you're going to catch that with your left eye that's not in the scope if that's open. So it's just one more set of eye on your target.
That was just a selfish question on my part. So I think that pretty much covers reticles. We've gone pretty good detail on that. If you guys have any questions, if you think we overlooked something, send me an email, talkinglead@gmail.com. I'll get with Paul and J-Mack, and we'll get your questions answered. But I think that was pretty thorough. I think they did a great job. So thank you guys for taking the time. Is there anything you can think of? Do we miss anything, overlook anything that we should be talking about?
I did want to say on that fast focus eyepiece that he was talking about, the ring on the back of your scope, that's specific for each shooter, like he said. So if it's set up for you, it might not work for someone else.
Yeah.
What I have found, training, like my kids and stuff, is I'll actually put a white sheet of paper across the house. And that's what you want. That's what you're trying to do with that particular setup, with that fast focus eyepiece. You want your reticle to be crisp, just perfect, crisp, and clear. And that's how you'll make that adjustment on that one. The sky works really good, because it's a nice light background. And then he hit the nail on the head. You got to blink a few times, look away. Your eyes are one of the first things to lose oxygen when you stop breathing. That's why no one should be holding their breath.
That's why
while they're making any kind of shooting.
Yeah, that's why you get tunnel vision.
Yeah. There's a respiratory pause rather than a hold of breath. But yeah, the white paper has worked magic for I have 5 daughters, so everyone learns different.
And again, if you guys have additional questions, make sure you send those talkinglead@gmail.com. I'll make sure we get those answered for you. We want to get caught up with Paul now, and like I said, it's been 30 episodes ago since we talked to you last. The book was just coming out.
That's right. So we were still pre-sales. We weren't even out.
It wasn't even out yet. So it
wasn't even out.
And it's the title of the book again is
When the Killer Man Comes.
The full title. I can't remember the full. I know When the Killer Man Comes.
Eliminating terrorists as a special operations sniper.
There you go.
Yeah, you got to put special ops in there. You got to put sniper in there. You got to put terrorist in there. Those are all
the catchphrases, right?
Exactly. Well, no, exactly. In short, it's a book about me and my friends killing the Taliban.
Wow! Right in the kisser.
Boom.
So that's my pitch. When Rangers are like, "What's this thing about?" And they seem to like that, so that's my go-to pitch. So I joined up, I think, right as they were discussing a surge in 2006. So everything was kind of ramping up, and I think we were sort of waking up to the idea that this wasn't just another Gulf War. So that was sort of the climate. We didn't really know as a country, maybe we didn't know what we were looking at. So I signed up in 2006, and I was supposed to go to Italy with 173rd. I ended up in Ranger Regiment at Fort Benning instead. So instead of traveling with the Army, I stayed right where I went to basic training at. I just went down the street.
You're like, hey, what happened to all the traveling they promised?
Yeah.
Damn it.
I'm like, I could have gone to Italy, but, that's all right. So I spent about 7 years in special operations doing various things, mostly working for the Rangers. I got to be a sniper instructor very briefly for a Special Forces sniper course. I got to compete in the USASOC sniper competition in 2010, and I got second. We lost to Delta Force, so I don't really feel,
somebody.
Exactly, they were guys from our unit too. So it was sort of like losing to your big brother at basketball or something. You're like, yeah, of course, these guys can dunk, and I'm not grown up yet. So I got to do that. I went to Afghanistan 6 times and got to be. Being a Ranger is amazing because you get to work with so many different people, from, 3rd ID and 10th Mountain and 101st and a bunch of Marine units to all SOF. I don't know if there's a direct action SOF unit out there that I haven't worked with, or a cool guy unit that I haven't gotten to work with. So that was really lucky. Got to do sort of a rock star tour of Afghanistan, see everything, fight with everybody, that sort of thing. So that was good. Then in 2011, on my 5th deployment, I had just completed the USASOC sniper competition, and they had a special task force that they were standing up because we had to prepare for the drawdown in 2014, and there were still places in Afghanistan that American boots had never touched. We had never gained any kind of foothold there. And those were the strongholds for the Taliban insurgency and for, the people who later on would become ISIS, the people who formerly were Al-Qaeda, all the Uzbeki militant stuff that's going on, that they're all in there. I mean, it's nasty. It's like a den of iniquity, in some of these places. So they made our task force to go and get these guys. These are spooky dudes, the guys you can't catch. Yeah, the assassins and the masterminds and the bomb makers and the people that are really, our equivalent of our best guys. The Taliban's best guys is Yeah, the guys you just cannot catch. So yeah, these weren't 19-year-old jihadis with AK-47s. These are the guys who are figuring out how to move 19-year-old jihadis from first world countries across borders into Afghanistan. So, and then implement them effectively as a fighting force. So, they had some chops, that's for sure. And that's when the Killer Man comes, that's what that's about. That's about Team Merrill and the platoon that I was attached to. There were two of us, two platoons, my platoon and my sister platoon, or their sister platoon rather. And we went out, and sometimes they'd send us into an area where they're like, there's between 2,000 and 10,000 Taliban hill fighters here. Find them. We're like, well, what do we do when we find them? Is there somebody we can call? And they're like, no, nobody can get in here. We can barely get close air support in here. So
find them, take them out.
Pretty much. If I had to describe it in a word, I'd say suicide mission. We did suicide missions every night, unless we were planning suicide missions for the next night.
Wow. I mean, there's all kinds of questions that are coming to my head right now, but I don't think they're appropriate. But but you talk about all this in the book, right? So they can you get into details in the book, and
absolutely
when the Killer Man comes, and you guys can go to Barnes and Noble, you can go to Amazon, you can go to Google Books. Do you have an audio version of it available?
Yeah. We did the Audible, and fortunately I just happened to be in New York, so I was able to record for it too, so you don't have to listen to a robot or an actor.
So it's you.
It's me.
Oh, that's cool. So you actually get to hear the man. Yeah.
Yep. And I was actually able to do a few in recording edits, which is the luxury of being an author. I think the audiobook is the closest to what I wanted to convey 100% accurately, because I got to change a few things after print. So it's a good one. I enjoyed listening to it, and I'm not a big fan of listening to myself. So
I prefer audio because I hate reading. So, and I've not had an opportunity to get your book yet. So I'm definitely going to get I'm going to download the audio version. That'd be something great to listen to, on the trip to flying out to Vegas for SHOT Show. So that's what I'm going to be doing.
Awesome, man.
This isn't your first attempt. This is your first book, is it? Didn't you have a couple books before this?
No, this is my first book.
This is your first book? Okay.
Yeah, the first one I wrote, and it's funny because I wrote a second book. I was more of an assist. I was doing a co-author, ghost author sort of thing for another sniper. He was in Third ID. His name's Robert Turkla, and his book is called Never Fear Anything. And that was interesting to write because we decided to base it on true stories because for safety reasons.
Sure.
This war's not over. And there's a lot of reasons, but we wanted to convey the kind of things that these guys are going through. And it was interesting to work on that because there's a distinct contrast between the way those guys feel and the way a Ranger or maybe a SEAL or an SF guy feels about the kind of combat they face. And it's because their posture is much different. They get out, they go after it. Obviously, they're fighters through and through, but they have a lot of defensive posturing they have to do as well. They have a lot of defensive tasks they have to do. And that's nerve-wracking when you're sitting there waiting for it and you don't know what's going to happen. That's a lot more nerve-wracking than knowing I'm walking into the most deadly place on earth because it's full of Taliban, but I'm walking in there and they don't know I'm coming, and I'm going to try and sneak up on them with all my boys, and we're going to give them a I don't know, Sunday punch or something, or whatever you want to call it. So
you're going to kick their ass is what you're going to do.
Yeah, we're going to go kick their ass, right? But if I had to sit and wait for somebody like that to come to me, that's a completely different kind of emotional anxiety that you got to go through. So that was good. It was a good read. I think it was a lot different than my book, and my experience. So it was fun to do that. And then I helped, I didn't write the book, but I helped Vincent Vargas, and he was sort of trying to get the layout for his new self-help book. I sort of helped him put all the pieces together into his book proposal and his chapter outlines and all that stuff. Right. So, just sort of.
Now, you served with a recent guest of ours. We had Nick Irving on. Nick,
oh, really?
Nick has that new TV show, Master of Arms.
Nice.
On the Discovery Channel. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay, I was going to say History. No, that's Discovery Channel.
Yep, it's Discovery.
So we had Nick and the crew on talking about their new TV show, and he was telling me, who he served with, he was in the same outfit that you were in. I was like, hey, do you know Paul? He's like, yeah, I know Paul. I was like, cool. Nick's doing some authoring as well. He does some fictional books. But you've got another one that you're working on. You're working on a graphic novel that's coming out. And I'm a big comic book dude. I love, I grew up in that genre, so I love that. So talk about the graphic novel.
So the graphic novel is called Tilt Shift, and I'm not actually part of the physical production of it, and then or the creative process. I just know the guys that are doing it, and we're trying to get that out, get that published, get it to as many people as we can. So that's essentially the guy who wrote it. His name's Jose, and Jose, his family came from Panama back in the 80s during what was it? Just Cause was the Panama operation. So Noriega tried to have his little coup or whatever he did. So they came to the United States, and then years later, he was working for, I don't know if he was working for Adult Swim or something like that. He was either animating or writing or something. He heard this interview about how guys in the military aren't very bright, and that we're not sending our best guys. And it just, he'd heard a lot of that stuff living in New York, people running down the quality of men and women we have in the service. And he thought, that isn't true, because I've seen the U.S. military in action in Panama, and I've always looked up to these guys. So he signed up. And not only did he sign up to be a combat cameraman, he volunteered to come and be a ranger. So he showed up with us, and I think it's chapter 8 or 9 in my book is when we meet Jose. He shows up, and he's been under night vision once in like a parking lot back home. Right. And, he shot his rifle at the range. I mean, he knows nothing. Like, just walking under night vision is like learning how to walk over again. Well, we took him on one of the most violent kinetic missions I've ever been on. And, this guy, he saw the gauntlet, man. I mean, the absolute gauntlet. We were chasing, enemy fighters. We were blowing people up with 40 millimeter from an AC-130.
I mean, was this guy just like blown away, or was he just like hanging on every?
Oh man, he was just. It was one of those situations when you saw him afterwards, like if you saw an animal that just like had run across the street and almost got hit by every car, or you met somebody that had just been through like a real bad car accident, and they're just like kind of bug-eyed and white, and they're a little shaky,
and they're not hurt at all. They're just like, what the hell?
And he's like, He's like, does this always happen? And we're like, yeah, pretty much. You're going to have to get used to that.
He's the cameraman?
It's worse.
He was your cameraman?
Yeah, he was our combat cameraman. Yep.
Oh, my gosh. So, I mean, even doing that, looking through the lens, I mean, it's like surreal. It's like you're in a movie, I bet. So. Oh,
yeah. Yeah, that's what he said. Like, listening to his experiences, his perspective on his perspective.
So, this is the guy doing the graphic novel. So, he's actually doing this graphic novel. So, what is it about? What's the...
It's about... the subtitle is The Quiet Profession, and it's about all these unseen things that are going on at war. Like imagine if you threw the game-winning touchdown pass at the Super Bowl, and before the quarterback or you caught the pass, but before the quarterback releases it, and before you catch it, the lights go black and nobody sees it. And then everybody walks out of the stadium and is like, whatever. Then nobody even knows it happened. Nobody cares, whatever. Like, that's the kind of stuff we did. You'd go out and persecute this intel line and get these guys. And they're like, wow, we just stopped a terrorist attack in New York or London.
Nobody ever knows it.
Nobody ever knows
goes on.
You might see a guy, make an incredible sniper shot, or, grab his buddy and cover him after a rocket explodes, like the kind of stuff that, most people would think you get medals for, and it's just sort of a normal thing.
It kind of sounds like, so I'm reading this summary. It says, on his first Afghan deployment, young combat photographer Freddie Blythe is attached to the premier kill capture force in country. Follow him as he and Team Galahad fight their way through the Korangal Valley in search of an expert bomb maker bent on spreading chaos throughout the embattled nation. So it sounds like he's just he's giving first-hand account of what you guys just went through. He's just kind of doing it in a comic format.
Yeah, I mean, it's real close. Cool. Yeah, and he's done some TV work and some other graphic novels. So he's very good at making a tale. That's going to parallel the truth. And his artist is so amazing. I was flipping through some of their pages when they first showed me their project, and I thought, man, this looks exactly. He might as well have been sitting on the side of the mountain I was looking through my rifle scope when he painted this or drew this.
Yeah. So if you guys
so similar,
you guys Google Tilt Shift is the name of the graphic novel, The Quiet Profession, cherry red. Then it'll come up, and I guess it's available for sale right now, right? It's on Comics,
yes, it is.
Comixology is where I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, so Comixology is where it's available, and we're actually right now we're generating funds to finish the series because comic books are very expensive to make. So
yeah,
right now we're going episode to episode or issue to issue. I don't know. Yeah,
cool.
And that's working out. So swing out by Comixology, show some love, but we'll be doing more. We've got some more announcements to make about that in the near future.
Okay. And speaking of announcements to make, when the Killer Man comes, Paul would like to give away one or two of these to our listeners. Is that right?
Yeah, let's give away a pair.
Okay, we'll give away two of those. So what you guys need to do to be eligible to get this is when I post this show, you guys go to social media, you go to Instagram, you go to Facebook, and I want you to go and follow Paul. And what's your social media? And I'll tag him on the post as well. Yeah. So I'll have a link there, but what is it?
It's at Billy Badass 375.
Okay.
And that's for Instagram and for Facebook.
Okay. At Billy Badass
375.
375.
Yep.
Go like him, follow him, and then I want you to comment on the post that I do. He's going to share it on his social media. So go to his social media and comment on it, and just let him know that you appreciate him taking the time and educate you guys on some reticles, and you're looking forward to having him back. Go buy his book. It's not a requirement to get the book, but go buy his book. Tell everybody about his book. We really want to boost the sales on this. I'm looking forward to reading it. I mean, you've told me some things about it that are in the book, and I'm really excited about it. And it sounds to me like it would make a good movie too. So let's really boost that up, and maybe Paul can get a movie made. He can put me in the movie. He can put Lefty in the movie. J-Mack, would you want to be in that movie?
Hells yeah.
Hells to
the
yeah. Hells to the yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
And then next episode, we'll randomly pick two of you lead heads that participate. Hashtag Billy Badass 375 also. I want you to do that too. So those are the requirements. And you're going to get an autographed copy, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Yep.
There you go. Very cool. So now, we might as well continue our giveaways. And as the leadheads know, we're doing an EDC Pocket Dump Rewards program. We're doing that with Buck Knives, Streamlight, and FLEOA, Federal Law Enforcement Officers Association. And we're giving away and it's a package deal. So in that package includes the Buck Knives 722 Blue Line Spitfire. And it's really cool. It's got an American flag with the blue line on it. And Streamlight is including a ProTac HLX, and there's another version of that as well. So there's a couple of different versions. And then Defy Watches, you're going to get a Battlefield watch from Defy Watches, which is being provided by FLEOA. Our good buddy Bill over at FLEOA is putting that in the package. Almost $300 worth of product that you're going to get. We're giving 10 of these away. We've given 2 away so far. We're giving 5 to civilians, 5 to our sheepdog. And what you do is you just go out and let your local law enforcement, fire department, EMS, your first responders, just let them know how much you appreciate what they're doing for the community and thank them for the service. And if they allow, don't be a douche about it. Don't be pushy. Take a selfie. Post that, and I'd like them to be in their uniform. I had a couple of you guys submit some things where you're like at the gym with them or something like that. I mean, I could grab my, my Uncle Bob over here and take a picture with him and say he was a police officer. But I trust you guys. I mean, I know you're not trying to dupe me, but I would prefer them to be in uniform of some sort, and just do all the hashtags that we've talked about in the previous episodes. You tag Talking Lead, you tag Streamlight, you tag Buck Knives, you tag FLEOA Bill H, and then you hashtag those also. And just put a caption on there. I mean, that's really all you got to do. Post it, and we're just randomly going through and picking 5 civilians and then 5 of you sheepdogs. we gave our first one away to a World War II vet, Uncle Pat, who was a previous recipient of one of the battlefield, actually it was the Field Watch from Defy Watches. So we sent one of those to him, and then last week we gave it to Austin, who sent me the dick pics this week. So that's his appreciation for being the winner of the EDC PD, I guess. So this week I'm going to pick a civilian, and the winner is, drum roll please, I wrote him down here somewhere, Doug Cross. So congratulations, Doug. You were actually the very first submission that we had in this contest. So I wanted to reward you for that. So just send me an email, talkinglead@gmail.com, with your contact information, and we'll get those sent out to you. So you other guys, we've got, how many is that, 3? So of the 10, at least 7 more to give away. So we've got, do my math, 3 civilians, and we got 4 LEs left to give out. Still time to do that. And like I said, just to remind you guys, J-Mack and I are headed off to SHOT Show. As you're listening to this, we'll be at SHOT Show. This will be the last show. We'll have one next week until we get back from SHOT Show, and then we're going to have all kinds of great interviews. You guys know I crank probably 2 of those out a week for the next 4 months after that with SHOT Show interviews. It's going to be a good time. We're going to be at Buck Knives. Again, a reminder, 14504. So if any of you lead heads are at SHOT Show, come by and see us. And then right on is going to be, what's your booth number again?
Yeah, we got some giveaways too. We're booth 428.
Yeah, and y'all got some stuff going on too. What do you got going on at SHOT?
Yeah, so we kind of broke the days up like into individual specific days. We're like Tuesday, we have a hunting day where we're doing a 10 to 12 meet and greet with Craig and Donna Boddington. And then
you got to bring him by, man. Let me do an interview with him.
Yeah, we'll get him over there. And then we're giving away some friends of mine here at Operation Pay It Forward. It's a military operation that helps vets that just need to like get out and get up and remember they're awesome. They take them out hunting and do stuff, fishing with them. But we're doing a Utah mountain lion hunt is being given away by them. Yeah. 245, we do like a big game glassing kind of seminar, how to locate them. And then we're giving away some binoculars and some other swag. Wednesday's military day. Ray Cash Care is a retired SEAL. Mm-hmm. He was a TV host and he does kind of mindset training now. He's there 9:30 to 11:30, I believe. Okay. Send him over too. Yeah. I've already talked to him about you.
Okay.
And then this guy, Charlie.
And he still wanted to come on the show?
He still was willing, yeah. I gave him all the details too.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Mr. Melton will be at the booth 1 to 3.
Yeah, he's coming. I know he's coming over, yeah.
Navy SEAL of the Year, Purple Heart, all that kind of Bronze Star, all that goodies. And then John Teagan. Yeah, 7 foot tall redneck mullet. Can't miss him. John Teagan will be there from about 4 to 5:30.
Oh, awesome!
Obviously, former Marine and Benghazi hero.
Definitely want him on, so send him over too.
Yeah, and then we're giving away one of Charlie's long range classes, 2-day class. Will be given away, so don't want to miss out on that. That's a pretty fun deal.
Now, do you have any updates on Charlie's world record next shot? What was it? 7,000 yards is where we're going next.
We'll start at 6, and just see how far we can get with under a 50 cal.
Paul.
Yeah, we're looking for repetitive, accurate.
7,000 yards.
So we're going to be doing some testing and gathering some data the Saturday before SHOT Show, and that's an open event. Anyone can come out. So contact me or Charlie or anybody, and we'll get you to the place we're going to be.
You going to be at the Pro Gun Club?
Not for for some, no for some other. We just got to go out into the desert to do what we're doing.
Okay.
I want to go.
I want to go do that.
Okay, I'll promise I'll keep you in the loop. Yeah, you're there for sure, and it's fun. We'll just be doing some shooting. Other people get to shoot too. Well, we're gathering data. We did the 5,000 yard shot. That gave us a lot of data.
Paul, you got to come to Vegas, man.
I'm looking at flights right now. I think I might have to come out. I've the only thing I've shot 7,000 yards was a 120 millimeter mortar.
I was going to say 100 millimeters.
I'm pretty interested in that, and I've got a 338 Lapua Magnum build that I've never really seen what it can do. So
it'll do. I could say it'll do 4,000 yards, no problem. We'll put you on 4,000 yards. Bring your Lapua.
Okay, I might have to do that.
So all we need is I need to know how big the objective is on your scope, because we have like a periscope for your scope.
Oh, cool.
Awesome. So you got to have. So just shoot me a message or.
Okay.
Well, you're gonna have RITON's. You're gonna have RITON's optics there too, so he's gonna want to check those out too.
Yeah, we can just slap one of those on for sure.
Yeah.
I love it. And then as far as the other giveaways, Charlie's doing that class. And then the day no one wants to meet is Thursday, or no one wants to miss is Thursday. It's Ladies' Days. I don't know if you guys have heard of. Yeah, Buff Cookie is her tag on Instagram. She's actually, it's funny. She's married to a Navy SEAL an Army Ranger that was part of the whole Black Hawk Down experience. Neil Curry. She represents Ready Gunner.
Is
He's
she
the owner
Casey
here
Cook?
in Utah. Casey Cook. Yep.
Okay.
Yep, that's
Buff
her.
Cookie. Yep. She's
Buff Cookie. Yep.
Okay.
She'll be there, and you can meet and greet with her.
I'll have to get permission for that one.
Yeah, you careful. I cannot say how everyone will be dressed and what will be said. So you better It's Vegas though, so got that going for you. Jamie Vilmore will be there. She's an international kind of model and a published model, and then actually she's a competitive shooter. Legit. She's a pretty girl, and we'll just post some interesting
funnel
pictures.
all these people from your booth over to the Buck Knives booth.
We'll just push them over to Buck Knives, yeah. And then on the Ladies' Day is a pretty good giveaway. We're doing a custom Cerakoted RITON Mod 7 4-20 and an Aero Precision AR-10 builder kit. So there's giveaways each day. There's
got to be there though. So
really cool people. Yeah, you have to be on site. You got to say hi.
So there'll
be some autographs.
If you're not going to be there, sorry, but we're going to have some giveaways coming up with these guys. We've been talking about doing some things. We got to get this EDC Pocket Dump Rewards going here, so you guys jump in on that. And once we get that done, then we're going to get some RITON, and there's some other cool stuff that we're going to be giving away as well. Kel-Tec wants to jump in on some stuff, so
yeah.
Got lots of good stuff coming up. So you guys make sure you tune in. Like I said, all this week as you're listening to this show, we're going to be there 19th through the 27th is how long Talking Lead's going to be there. So check our social media live. RITON's going to be doing, I'm sure you guys are going to be doing your social media lives from there as well.
Oh, yeah. You'll see my ugly mug.
Got some big names going to be hanging out at RITON booth and the Buck Knives booth. Exciting things. So that's why this is an extra long episode to keep you guys content until we get back. All right. So I think that does it. Did I talk? I haven't thanked the sponsors yet. I got to thank our sponsors. So
right on.
And I apologize. I didn't do it in the beginning. I was just excited to get into the show today. But yes, obviously RITON, the official optics of Talking Lead. We just talked about all the cool things they got going on. Make sure you guys go to ritonoptics.com and follow them during SHOT Show. Modern Spartan Systems. Don't just clean your firearms. Optimize them with Modern Spartan Systems line of cleaning, lubrication, and optimizing products. And they even got products for your vehicles. Anything with an engine, the TVT engine oil additive. You guys know I use it in the old lead sled. And it's keeping her going well over, I'm at, 350,000 miles?
Nice.
And ticking.
And we use it for those long shots, too.
Yes, that's right. Charlie's using it. You're using it. Good buddies over at Modern Spartan Systems. Check them out. They're gonna be at SHOT Show, too. So we'll be hearing from them, get an update what's going on with Modern Spartan Systems. Kel-Tec. We had Kel-Tec Chad on our last regular episode. He gave us an update of the cool things that's going on with Kel-Tec. They've got a new 22 long pistol that they're going to be releasing at SHOT Show. Really cool looking. I got one of the exclusives on that, posted a picture of that. So go to Instagram, you can see that, Facebook. And then they've got, you guys familiar with the KSG shotgun?
I'm not.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, big fan.
Yeah, so it's the bullpup shotgun. It's got the double tubes, so you can load, it's an ungodly amount of 12 gauge that you can load in this. But they've scaled it down, so now they've got a single tube version, lower weight, easier maneuverability. They've added a couple of other features on it. Chad goes over those in that episode, and the price point had been lowered a lot too. So there's less tech and less things like that. So it's going to be more affordable. So you guys go check that out. KeltecWeapons.com, and then he's got some other things on the horizon. I think they're going to tell us about those at SHOT Show, so stay tuned for that. X Steel targets, the best, most affordable AR 500 steel targets on the market today are X Steel targets. Bud is going to try to get out there, so hopefully he will make it. We'll get Bud on, and we'll talk about some cool stuff that they got going on. They've got some new machines, so they're able to do some custom cuts on targets. So pretty much anything you can think of on a target, they're going to be able to do now. And I think they're actually providing the targets for Charlie for his world record shot. Is that right?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Yeah. So we've been waiting for a while on this. They've been putting it off. So we got to get that shot going. So he was like what, 5,025 yards? Is that where it was?
That is correct. Yep.
And he was using that shy attack round. Is that right? Was it the 458 shy attack?
So he uses Brad Stair over at Performance Gun, has a trademarked Tejas round. He changes the neck and shoulder on the case.
I knew that. It's a modified shy attack. Yeah.
You better edit that part out. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's been using the Tejas round.
Yes. Awesome, incredible round. Brad knows his stuff, but yeah, it was a 408 Tejas. We were 14-second time of flight, I believe it was, for 5,025 yards. Yeah, we were 46 feet of Coriolis effect. So something like 500 inches of the earth spinning under the bullet, something like that.
That is awesome.
It was some interesting math going on there.
So a lot of the, I guess all of the Talking Lead sponsors are taking part in this. I mean, you guys are doing the scope. Modern Spartan Systems is doing the lubes. X Steel's doing the targets. It's amazing. So I didn't really realize that until I just said it out loud. What's that?
Killer Man will be there as a spotter now. He'll be in.
That's right. Paul's going to be there. Shoot, he's going to get trigger time.
I'm going to try to, yeah.
And it's open. We want it.
Yeah, and then, of course, Buck Knives, Streamlight. Make sure you guys go show them some love. Hit them up on social media. Let them know that you appreciate what they're doing with this EDC Pocket Dump Rewards program. I mean, that's almost $3,000 of product that they're putting up. FLEOA. Thank FLEOA Bill for all that as well. And then 1776 United, Talking Lead swag. Go there, get it. Get the Talking Lead Evil Black Assault mugs, the Talking Leady. You get those at dip123.com/Talking Lead. Better than a Yeti, the Talking Leady keeps your drinks minutes colder and hotter. Don't be a snowflake. Get your Talking Leady. All right, guys, that does it for another episode of the Talking Lead podcast. I hope this tied you guys over until we get back. If not, like I said, check us out on the live on social media, Instagram, Facebook. We will not disappoint. And Wednesday is when we're doing the interview with Albert Manfrey, the last surviving member of Easy Company. And you know we're going to be live on that, so make sure you tune in Wednesday. Don't have an exact time yet, but that's going to happen. Paul, again, thank you so much. Your timing was perfect today. I'm glad you reached out to me. This has been a great show, man. It went a lot longer than I anticipated, but I thank you for taking the time and sharing all that knowledge with us.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Great way to spend an afternoon.
All right, and J-Mack, as always, man, Optics 101 was a great class, and we appreciate you taking the time. And we're going to do another one. We got more optics education coming. And,
yes, sir. I'm excited to be part of it. So thanks for having us.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So, guys, again, make sure you go check out Paul's social media. One more time, hit that.
Billy Badass 375 on Facebook and Instagram, and Killerman 375 on Twitter, and they're all linked. So if you find one, you'll find all of them.
There you go, and make sure you guys take part to get those autographed when the Killer Man comes.
That's right.
Limited edition autograph from Colin Cho. I'm not autographing them, so they're going to be worth a lot more.
Shoot, I hope.
Am I excluded from the giveaway, or do I get to get in too? What's up?
No, you're excluded, dude. Unless you,
Damn it.
I think you could probably trade him a scope for a book.
Okay.
Yeah.
We need to talk about that. Yeah.
Sounds like a good deal to me. I like it.
Sir.
All right, Leadheads, as always, keep your loved ones close.
And your firearms closer.
And keep your firearms closer.
And Billy Badass.